Yo, you know who it is. Griddle's hot, rumors fly, but the Baps still banging. Let's go! I'm the Batman, Belfast, born and bred. Flipping fried eggs while they talk on threads. They tweet that beef, but I bring real meat. Bacon stacked high, Bap game elite. They chat like they know me, they don't know jack. Talking mad smoke while I'm serving a stack. Hash brown hot with the yolk that runs. I break more fast than 100 nuns. They hate, they try to cancel my stand. Still flipping Baps.
On the Belfast Bapcast, we sit down with a man who went from Premier League legend to mainstream outcast, not because of scandal, because he dared to say what he think. So Matt Le Tissier isn't just one of the most gifted footballers of his generation. He was a one-club man and a creative genius on the pitch, and a player fans genuinely adored. But in the era of conformity, where questioning the narrative gets you cancelled, Matt has stood firm on principle. From his days as Le God at Southampton to becoming a target of the media machine, Matt's journey is one of courage, conviction, and refusing to bow to the mob. So we're going deep into his football career, the cost of speaking truth in a culture of fear, and what it means to stay human in an increasingly artificial world. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, thank you very much, Matt, for taking the time to join such a small operation as ourselves today.
No problem. My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you too. So, just gonna go sort of in a linear fashion here. So, can you just tell us first of all what was your upbringing like, and when did you realize football was your path?
Yeah, so I grew up on the tiny channel island of Guernsey,
Okay,
youngest of four boys, and massive sporting family. All my brothers were really good footballers. My dad was a good footballer. Um, and yeah, I was just kind of had a football at my feet from a very early age. I probably realised at about the age of 8 that I was better than average,
okay,
and then kind of from that age on, really, that's kind of all I wanted to be, was a professional footballer. And yeah, I got the chance to do that. Southampton spotted me when I was 14 or 15, I think it was. So it was quite late, really, because a lot of kids were spotted a lot earlier than that back in those days. But I was quite late to the scene. They liked what they saw in the trial. They signed me as an associate schoolboy, and a year later, the decision was made on who were going to be given places on the YTS scheme, as it was back then. And I was one of the 9 boys in my age group that was given a chance at Southampton Football Club, full time. Excuse me, from the age of 16.
so obviously, given that football was a love of yours, that must have been phenomenal to get the opportunity to do that as a career.
Um, yeah, that was pretty amazing. It was a big wrench to leave the island that I grew up on
Okay,
at such a young age, at 16. So 2 of my older brothers had the chance to become professional footballers before me,
okay,
and both of them turned their opportunities down because they didn't want to leave the island. They got homesick,
I
and
know.
didn't want to leave the family. So so yeah, it was quite a big wrench at 16 to leave and come across to the mainland. But I settled pretty quickly.
So
I was
coming from Guernsey, didn't you say? Yeah.
yeah.
Would you say the value system was very different than what it would be in the mainland there? What you were
Yeah.
experiencing in your home life?
Yeah, I would say so. It's a lot less ruthless over there. It's a much more friendlier environment, I would say.
Okay.
The pace of life is a lot slower. People are a lot more chilled. That was kind of my experience.
And your parents directly, what sort of, like, obviously some of these instilled decent morals and principles in you. I'm assuming that was your parents. So what sort of
Absolutely.
were they religious? What was the story there?
Um, Not particularly religious. I would have said it wasn't a huge part of our upbringing. Yes, we went to weddings and christenings
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't a regular church goer. My mum would go occasionally, um, and yeah, so it didn't play a huge part in my life actually. But when I came to Southampton at 16, um, my youth team coach at Southampton was a guy called Dave Merrington, and he was a very very proud Christian. He was. We weren't allowed to use the Lord's name in vain in training. He would pick us up on it,
Good.
and he was incredibly disciplined, and he also um, instilled some values in me that are in me still today.
And
So I
what
would say a
age were
lot of
you at this stage? Sorry, whenever you came over to Southampton, what age were you originally?
16 years of age when I came over.
So he would have probably stepped in as a bit of a father figure at that point.
And yeah, very much so, very much so. And he was incredibly influential in not just my football career, but in shaping me as an adult as well. There were obviously some incredibly important formative years there from the age of 16
Yeah.
to 18. And he instilled some strong values in not just me, but all the players that were there. We were all um, given a strong sense of belonging in a team, and a strong sense of belonging in the community, and to realise that we were fortunate to be doing what we were doing for a job. And Dave would encourage us to go down to the local homeless centre and spend time with guys who were living on the streets, and just to got to make us aware that there's a different life outside of the ones that we were leading, and you've got to be
Grateful.
aware that aware that other people aren't as lucky as you, and I think that was a great value to instill in people.
Unbelievable. And would you say he was probably a pivotal role then in why you were so loyal to Southampton as a club?
Yeah, I'd say he would be one of the reasons why. There were other reasons as well. The fans were always
Yeah.
really good to me. As a young kid, they were always chanting my name and wanted me to get on the pitch because I was substitute quite a lot in my younger days, and they were always geeing the manager up to get me on the pitch, and so I've always had a fantastic relationship with the fans at Southampton. They were another one of the reasons why I stayed there my whole career. But I did have opportunities to leave, and I nearly joined Tottenham Hotspur when I was 21.
Okay.
But I decided in the end to stay at Southampton, and to this day, for all the reasons that I chose to stay, I don't have any regrets about spending my whole career at Southampton Football Club. So yeah, I'm very at peace with that decision.
Well, obviously, loyalty is a big thing to you. To give that amount of years to anyone is, well, loyalty is a dying thing. But just for the benefits of people who know me, can you explain the offside rule to me, please?
How long have you got?
Just the basics, please.
Okay, there's got to be more than there's got to be at least two of the defending team between you and the goal when the ball is
Okay,
passed to you.
right. And if there's not, then you're offside.
If there's only one, then you're going to be offside. Yeah, as long as
Right.
you're interfering with play and you attempt to play the ball. This is where it gets complicated.
I had a friend who said you would never have been offside because you were too slow. There sounds like a bitterness there in him.
I wasn't always slow. I was in my youth. I was actually quite quick.
Okay, so do you have like a favorite goal or a favorite moment in your career that like emotionally or not just
Oh
technically?
yeah. Probably my favourite moment in this Southampton shirt came in my penultimate season. We were leaving our old stadium at the Dell, and we were moving to a brand new stadium at St Mary's, where we are still playing today. And the last ever game at the Dell our old stadium. We played against Arsenal, and we were drawing 2-2. I came on as a substitute with about 12 minutes to go, and in the 88th minute, I scored a left foot half volley, and we won the game 3-2. And I became the last ever person to score a league goal at the old stadium.
The hero, I imagine, for that. Like, these moments are all captured in time, and that's the magnificent thing about being able to have the sort of career that you've had, or anybody else on an international sporting stage. These are moments that will never pass. They'll be replayed for generation after generation, which is fantastic. But do you think at all your style was misunderstood ever?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was looked upon by a lot of people as what some people call a luxury player. Because I perhaps didn't have the same work rate as the other players, and I was a lot more clever in how I would
Output.
use my energy, and I probably suffered because of that. People thought that I was lazy and unfit, but I would contest that in 540 games that I played for Southampton, I scored over 200 goals and created over 100 goals as well. Now, if you're lazy and unfit, I'm sorry, you can't do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, statistics are a beautiful thing, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And there's a reason why you're a legend, and the numbers speak for themselves. So how did you find the transition from the pitch to the pundit table?
Pretty easy. I was pretty comfortable in front of a camera when I was doing interviews as a player. As I got older, I became very comfortable, and didn't faze me at all having a camera thrown in my face and speaking. So the kind of TV work I adapted to pretty quickly, and ended up doing, I think it was probably 20 years, 18 years actually at Sky altogether.
One of the most respected pundits at the time, whenever you were let go. So tell us obviously about that. How did that come about, and was there any form of warning, or was it just
yeah, so I was questioning on social media the government's response to the COVID nonsense early on in 2020. I don't think Sky particularly liked it. I was going against the grain of what the mainstream media were telling everybody. And obviously I was working for a mainstream media company at the time, although in the sports department, not in the news department.
Yeah.
And I was criticising the news departments of the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and Sky News. And obviously that was who was paying my wages. So, but I couldn't leave them out. They were. I just felt like what I was seeing on the television was some kind of dystopian nightmare. The fear mongering that was going on in the mainstream media was disgusting, and I felt like I had to call it out, even if that was detrimental to my career as a pundit, which it obviously ended up being.
So if you were able to see through that charade, I imagine your eyes have been open for a lot longer than 2020. From before 2020, you're clearly, because most intelligent people I knew through COVID were taken along for the ride and bought into the nonsense. But to spot that so early on, and to have the strength of character to call that out, you clearly have had your suspicions about what we're being told before, and the powers that rule over us.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was pretty sure that 9/11 wasn't all that we were told it was. Quite frankly, I don't think you need to be an expert to understand that that the way those towers fell were controlled demolitions. Nobody talks about building number 7.
No, that's uncomfortable.
Sorry.
I said no, that's too uncomfortable for people, and the engineers that have spoke out against it as well. I mean, it's some things are that blatantly obvious. It's almost beyond belief that people can't see, isn't it? You know.
Well, I think that's the power of that's unfortunately that's the power of the media. That's the power that the television has over people, is that they can convince them that black is white and that night is day.
And whoever thought we would have seen Gary Lineker in a similar position? Do you know what I mean? You know, that was a very unlikely curveball, but there you go. Or is he being used as a political pun to divide? You know, who knows? But keeping to yourself, the spirit of Southampton Football Club that you withheld throughout your whole career, like you stayed loyal. How did you feel whenever they were so quick to split, when it became uncomfortable to be associated with you?
Well, they never, they didn't, they never actually sacked me or anything like that. I actually resigned my position as ambassador at the club because they were getting people complaining to the club. People were, you know, writing in saying that I shouldn't be an ambassador at the football club. It's a disgrace with the views that I hold. And I knew about this, and the club had said they weren't going to sack me because of my views. And I just said, well, look, I don't want you to have that, be in that uncomfortable position and have all these people keep emailing you. It's not fair on you. I said, so the easiest thing for me to do is I'll just resign my position, and it stops the whole thing. The idiots can stop writing in and, you know, with their nonsense.
So
It takes
there's
all the power. Yeah, it just takes all the power away from them. So I just said, right, that's it. I'll resign my position. It's fine.
but that's
I'm,
a
you know,
display of loyalty again, you know.
well, yeah, and you know they've never stopped me from going to the games. You know, they always give me free tickets to the games, so it's never been a
Yeah.
problem. And the last couple of years, I've actually started doing a bit more work for them as well.
Was there a moment throughout that you ever felt truly isolated, or were you fine?
Um, was I ever truly isolated? No, not really truly isolated. No, because during the early days of the COVID nonsense, we set up some WhatsApp groups of like-minded celebrities who kind of all thought the same way, and so you always had that support
Community.
group
Yeah.
to go back to, and that's, you know, that's been the case, you know, since 2020, and they've still got a few of those groups going to this very day.
So obviously, from a mainstream point of view, that you're as good as counsel. You're not really back on any sort of major sports outlets or whatever. But you know, obviously that's an impact to you financially and or whatever. But sometimes principles are more important. You know, and
Yep.
my previous guest today was Kevin Annett, who's Canadian minister who exposed like mass abuse within the Canadian government against Indigenous people and stuff. And you know, sometimes you know if your own life does suffer, so be it. You just have to stand on principles sometimes, you know. And it's great to see when people like yourself in the public eye, who you know, from a materialistic point of view, have a lot more to lose than most, having the bravery to stand up. And you know, bravery is maybe the wrong word, because it's conviction. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I would say conviction rather than bravery. And also, I've never really kind of been a much of a person who, I didn't have a flash lifestyle. I don't drive big flash cars. You know, I've tried to lead a normal life, really, as much as I possibly can. And I think that stood me in good stead. I think a
do
lot
you
of
think
people
that?
have, yeah, a lot of people have over the last few years. I've had a lot of people come up to me in the street, complete strangers, shaking my hand and saying thank you for standing up, because there's lots of us that think like you, but we don't have your profile. So it was good to see somebody in the public eye actually doing that, and you know that makes me feel justified in doing what I do.
100%, because whenever you speak your name amongst people, I've yet to have anybody say anything negative in response. It's just the narrative that the mainstream try to put out there, because people still remember your work on the pitch, and people now have seen that what you said was proven to be correct. So why would they be annoyed with you? Do you know what I mean? And um, what we're living in a very, very strange time with the whole woke culture and the thought policing and the mass conformity. Like, what do you think has happened to society where, like, suddenly if you don't agree with the hive mind, that it equates to evil and you must be cancelled? Like, what's this all about?
What's it all about? I think there is some kind of plan in place for every human being on this planet to be controlled by their government.
Hmm.
I think that's why you're seeing the central bank digital currencies trying to be rolled out. They want to control everything that you can spend, when you can spend it, how you can spend it. They'll have expiry dates on your money, all this kind of stuff. And it is, I think it's become pretty obvious to me that there is some very nefarious people who don't have the best of intentions for us um, as human beings. I think there's some people who are just have got so much money that all they crave is power and control over other human beings, and that's what seems to be playing out.
Yeah, there's a demonic aspect to it, I think, where they've had so much power and luxury that it's just overindulgence and it's like it just seems to be a repetitive cycle of abuse from those that are supposed to be uh, looking out for us. And I think we're as much to blame individually as citizens or humans, or whatever you
Yeah,
want to refer to us as, for looking out to an external framework for the teat to suck upon, whereas we should be able to provide for ourselves. And I think things like the social welfare system was put in place and brought in as apparently a good thing, but there to disable the family, the nuclear family, incentivize single parenthood, and not having to rely on the community. And it's done its job very, very well.
yeah,
And it's stripped the fabric of the United Kingdom and many other countries down to vacuous, cultureless, and familyless, and valueless. Unfortunately, in a lot of incidents.
yeah. I'm afraid you're absolutely right, and I think it's a plan that's been in place for a long time, and we're just seeing the final bits of it being played out in front of us. And I think we need to push back against it in large numbers, and I think I'm starting to see some signs of that happening.
I fear that the pushback is also controlled. So we
Some
have
of it,
figures like Tommy Robinson, for example, provably paid for by Zionist lobbyists.
yep.
Um, you know, bringing all these people together to one place on September 13th for facial recognition. I would say more so than.
Do you know what? That's really interesting that you say that, because I saw him on social media talking about it, where he was encouraging everyone to turn up, but nobody wear a mask.
Because facial recognition.
And I thought, hang on a minute, that's interesting. Why does he not want anyone to wear a mask? And then I thought, oh, of course, the facial ID. They want to get everyone ID'd up, don't they?
See, you haven't lost the ability to critically think, Matt, like most of society. So you're able to join the dots. And, like, whenever somebody like a Tommy Robinson is saying 99.9% of stuff that you agree with, and he's continuously in the public eye, even as the villain, the narrative's being controlled, and they're looking you to latch on to him as the opposition. It's as old as days. Sun Tzu, be your opposition, control
Mm,
you know,
absolutely. The best way to control the opposition is to lead the opposition.
correct. And it happened in this country for many years, you know, it's
Yeah.
madness.
No, absolutely.
So why would you say so many other people in your position who are in the public eye, because I'm sure there's many whose eyes are open, and I'm sure you know them, but why are they afraid to speak out? Because of the cancellation, really, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that that what happens is they try and make an example of a few people, and then that shuts everybody else up. I was one of the people that they picked on to make an example of. How dare you speak out? How dare you question what the government is doing? We'll get you cancelled from all your jobs, and make your life very uncomfortable. And then they'll highlight that in the media, so that everyone else who's in my position goes, "Oh, blimey, look what happened to Matt Le Tissier. We better shut up and not say anything here." And it's again an age-old tactic that they use
Self-censor, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I've had so many people, who have in private will say that they agree with everything that I've said, but they're not brave enough to say it because they want to keep their job and they've got a
Yeah.
mortgage to pay, and they want to keep their nice house and their nice car.
So has there been any moments, I think I already know the answer here, but has there been any moments where you've regretted speaking your truth?
Not one.
Nah, because truth is paramount, isn't it? And I think
Truth is the most powerful thing that you can have in your armory.
it certainly is, because it's approachable. You can't do anything with it. It's impervious to facts, it's impervious to anything else. It is what it is, and it stands alone. So, who do you believe is really setting the tone of what's going on here and what's the end goal?
Who's setting the tone?
Yeah, like the narrative and who's and what's the end goal of what we're experiencing. Like,
Well,
what was COVID all about, and what was
I think COVID was all about trying to get as many people vaccinated with this mRNA stuff as possible.
Mhm.
Um, I think that was one of the things. I think it was also the digital IDs that they want to bring in. They're using anything they possibly can to try to force people to accept that as a thing. And I would say to anybody who's listening, you must know that what's gone on these last few years has been pre-planned. It was pre-planned, without a shadow of a doubt.
Event
Everything.
201.
Sorry.
Event 201 with
Absolutely. They
with the
told you they
simulation.
they
Yeah.
they have to tell you what they're going to do, and they do it, and they put it in. They do a simulation event. They'll put things in movies that they're going to do, that you think you're just watching, but they're pre-programming you. They're programming you to think that
Same
that's
happened
that's normal.
around 9/11, and the same happened around 7/7. There was simulation events going on for the exact same scenarios that were going on that day, and it caused so much confusion. And that's why I
Yep.
always say to friends, if you want to know what's a false flag and what's not, if there's a simulation running at the same time, it's a false flag.
Exactly right.
Um,
Exactly right. There's so much that people, I think, if you actually have the time to sit down and go through it logically and think about it, then you will come to the same conclusions that people like me and you have come to. Unfortunately, some people are so busy with their lives, or just can't be bothered thinking. They're just too lazy. Then they'll just swallow everything that the little square box in the corner of the room tells them.
yeah, and I think very much the boomer generation would be guilty of just consuming everything the TV tells them and just believing it. I mean, around COVID, that was the sort of main generation that was making everybody else feel guilty about not going out and clapping for the NHS or not conforming to whatever the current rule was. And because it's your ma, your granny, or whatever, you're just like, all right, okay. But really, we all knew that this is like some form of communism training that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ultimately the end goal is a one world government, one world religion.
So, did you have like this already sort of deciphered before COVID, or was COVID
Uh,
made what made you
It-
start thinking about this? Or
Yeah, it was COVID that made me start thinking about this. I had, obviously everybody was locked down. We had time on my hands. I went and had a look at, the United Nations agenda
2030?
for the 21st century, and the 2030s, all that stuff. Their sustainability goals, the 17 sustainability goals, whatever it is, all that nonsense. And I went and have a look at the plans that they've got. These United Nations, these organisations that really have no reason to exist,
No,
and shouldn't
World
shouldn't be
Economic
funded
Forum.
by shouldn't be funded by our taxpayers' money, like the World Health Organization, all that nonsense. So I had a lot of time on my hands. I looked into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, what Gates was doing with his money, where he was putting it to, and I just smelt a rat. I
What a
smelt a rat over here.
horribly human Bill Gates is. I mean, everything about the look of him just screams off just rat.
Yeah, yeah,
There's nothing
satanic.
about him that's wholesome, and he presents
Absolutely.
himself as this philanthropist holier than thou. But if you look into all of his philanthropy work, especially I think it was India, where like the mass sterilization of an entire community,
Yeah,
they would
that's
not
awful
have him
human being.
back in the country, an absolute cretin of a human being. So, um, what you've spoken out around COVID about the PCR test data manipulation, and where, like, I mean, even the inventor of the PCR test spoke out about the manipulation of the data.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
Carrie Mullis said you can, if you'll find anything if you do enough cycles of the test.
and whenever you were getting the PCR test on the end of it, what was the chemical that was used? But it's like one of the most carcinogenic chemicals that was put down
Oh
there.
yeah, that was on the tips that they were sticking right up your nose, trying to get through the blood-brain barrier. Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting what they did with those.
And I mean, not even 5 years later, it's come out. I mean, the vaccine companies have admitted, AstraZeneca, etc., about the blood clots and different things. And still, we have the folks who were, get the vaccine. Nobody's prepared to, admit and adjust, if that makes sense. Nobody's prepared to take new information on board, realize the information they held was incorrect, not even apologize, but just move forward accordingly. They're still sort of stuck in the same wee bubble where they have to pretend the COVID was a real thing and that the flu didn't disappear for 4 years. And, it's quite sad to watch. Like, people I respected.
Yeah, no, it is quite sad that there's a serious lack of critical thinking. But I think that goes all the way back to school. I don't think kids are taught at school to think critically at all. They're just indoctrinated with these woke ideologies in schools at the moment, and they're just forced to repeat stuff. And school isn't a place where you're actually learning too much. You just go to be indoctrinated, and
I think the perfect way I've heard schools explained is they make you smart enough to operate the machines, but not clever enough to revolt. And now we're in a school system that was made for the Industrial Revolution, and we're moving into the fourth Industrial Revolution, where it's AI and all the rest. Basically, we're moving into end times, is how I would describe it. But
yeah, I would say that AI certainly has the mark of the beast about it in some ways.
certainly, and a lot of the things now that they're trialing in the United Kingdom, I'm sure you're aware of them, like 15-minute cities. What's your thoughts on these things, and how do you make people more aware of these?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing we can do is make people aware of what they're trying to do. I don't think people would be happy to vote for having a ring around them where they can't go out of that ring because you'll be geo fenced in.
Yeah, and like all this climate change, in my opinion, nonsense. that's been going on for years has been to condition us into accepting, carbon credits and restriction on our ability to travel, while those who are dictating these things to us are traveling to their meetings in the private jets and convoys of vehicles, driving behind them, and nobody goes, hold on a minute.
I know.
Like, how much is society lacking critical thought that we cannot see how retarded that is?
And that is due to decades of schooling and what the kids are being taught at school.
It's
Just
like a
not
demoralization has taken place of people.
yeah.
Like, just to even take seriously what the likes of a Klaus Schwab has to say. Like, what, who are you? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
Like, who do you think you are? Who appointed you? Any arbitrator over my life? And the world has gone so far from God and the spiritual aspect that now spirituality is running rampant, and the war of good and evil is so prevalent that it's scary.
I think
People
that was
believe,
the thing I think that pushed me towards God was the realization of the battle of good versus evil that's going on this planet, and
I want to be on the
I,
right side.
I wanted to be on the right side, absolutely.
And then we have America, for example, who think Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the answer. When Elon Musk wants to stick a chip in your brain, and Donald Trump is Israel's bitch. So people really don't have the ability to critically think anymore. It's scary. Like, he tells you about it. He even read out a poem about being a snake in his first time round in office. And, like, as you say, they have to inform you of these things before taking place. But
yeah, who was it that said when the people need a hero, we'll provide them with one? I think it was the head of the Freemasons or something like that.
And by God, what a ridiculous hero they've provided. The fact that people think that, even looking into his family ties, like, his Uncle John Trump got all Tesla's papers whenever he died. The connections these people have. Like, he goes back to English royalty as well, and his family links. It's aristocracy under another guise in America, really. It's the same old family ties, the same old boys club, and we're not part of it. As George Carlin said, it's a big club, and we're not part of it. And
exactly right.
Even with public exposure like yourself, life spent in the front of the cameras, you were no more part of that than anyone else, really. I'm sure you probably could have had more access to things, but being grounded.
Yeah, I didn't see. That was the thing. I didn't really get involved in the politics at Sky. I literally, so my working day for a soccer Saturday job, I would get picked up from my house at like 9:30 in the morning, driven to the studios. I'd have an hour before we went on air to get ready and have a quick chat, and then we would be on air for 6 hours. And at 6 o'clock, my car would be waiting to drive me home. And that was the extent of what I got involved with at Sky. I didn't really have anything to do with the big bosses there. Only every 2 years when they wanted to give me a new contract, and even then there was never any real negotiations. They were like, "There's another 2-year contract here," and I'll be like, "Yeah, that's cool, thanks, cheers," and that's it. So I didn't really get involved in any of the politics and really get to know any of the higher ups at Sky.
So since leaving Sky Sports and all the controversy, what projects have you got going on now, or where can we find Matt?
So at the moment I'm doing some work for Southampton Football Club. I'm a director at a non-league football club called Sholing, a couple of miles away from St Mary's Stadium. I'm also an ambassador or for Supreme CBD, which I promote that online as an affiliate. What else do I do? I'm a very good after dinner speaker, so I've been speaking at sporting dinners for many years. So I also do that. So yeah, there's quite a few irons in the fire, and I've had to obviously adapt because I lost probably 50% of my income in one fell swoop when Sky decided that I was mouthing off too much and they needed to sack me.
Would you say football has dramatically changed since your day?
Oh yeah. And it's changed in several ways. Obviously, the money first and foremost, that's changed quite considerably. I think the standard of the pitches that they play on has changed incredibly. They're all playing on carpets pretty much every week now, which is lovely. So it's much easier to play football now. What else has changed? I think the attitude of the players have changed. The players are a lot softer, a lot more flaky than what we were back in my day. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff that's changed. The sports science stuff has taken over in quite a big way, and I think sometimes
For all the gains,
clubs
but like for all the advances in sport, I always find like it loses some of its grit, if that makes sense. Like it was almost
yeah.
any sport's almost better watching it raw when people were just turning up, getting it done. That was their job. Now all the nutritional science around it, and it's turned it into like a I don't know, like a religion, a cult almost, as opposed to a passion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that you shouldn't look after your body to the best of your ability, but what I'm saying is it's sort of taken paramount over the actual love for the game or the sport or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And what you were saying about the players, definitely a lot softer. There's nobody now that would be being a Matt Le Tissier and speaking their truth. They're all very whipped.
They're all very. I think they're a little bit controlled by their agents as well in what they can say. Although I did notice there were a few players that refused to take the knee when all that nonsense was going on in the Premier League. So that was quite heartening to see.
There is one question here about a tweet about Anne Frank. Tell us about that and a mask. You're talking to friendly here, so
Yeah. No, I was
that.
just trying to remember. Remember what it was. So yeah, so it was a policeman having a go at somebody on a train for not wearing a mask, and he was being quite aggressive about it, and I think I put something like just remember, Anne Frank was breaking the law as well. It was something along those lines,
And
basically saying the police are bang out of order for what they were
no doubt,
doing.
anti-Semitic was the line that they came out with, no doubt, to try and counteract that.
I don't know if it was it anti? I don't know. I don't think it was that. I obviously somebody got offended by it, and
Yeah, I
my
don't
agent
really
rang.
see how that can be at all controversial because it's true.
Well,
Yeah,
I thought, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and it wasn't in any way anti-Semitic. That's not. I've never really had that. I think that's probably the only accusation I haven't had thrown at me over the last few years.
yeah. It'll come. I mean, it'll
I'm sure
come.
it will. I'm sure it
Uh,
will. Yeah, but everything else.
it comes along with every other buzzword that they throw out there to shut people down, whether it be racist or Nazi or
Yeah,
know.
misogynist.
And I think the irony of these situations are the people that espouse and shout about equality and systematic racism and all this nonsense are the most unaccepting, most like visceral people on this planet. If you disagree
Indeed.
with them, they don't just walk about their day. They want your child to die of cancer or something insane. They'll
Oh
say
yeah.
the most horrible nonsense, and it's like, How is that in any way going to bring people towards your cause?
No, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people who hide behind virtue signaling, who are actually not very nice
Evil.
people at all. Yeah,
Evil. It
evil.
gives them
Yeah,
it gives them the
satanic.
platform on which to righteously be a dick, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, so, what is the future for yourself? I mean, obviously, you take every day as it comes, but have you anything on the horizon, or any
Uh,
projects you want to plug? Or
no projects I particularly want to plug. I'm just cracking on with my life, trying to enjoy it the best I can under the ridiculous conditions that are being imposed upon us. And I've, come to the realization a couple of years ago that there is a battle of good versus evil, and that and I will put my faith in God and put my faith in Jesus. Know that there is a plan, and that everything will be all right.
if there was one message you could get out there to the average person, say ex-supporters of Matt Le Tissier, what's important in life really, and what's not?
What's important in life is your faith, your morals, and the truth. They're the most important things.
And as a family man, obviously the whole situation would have impacted your family too, but uh, they just sort of blindly stand by you, or was there any sort of pushback? Or
Oh no, there was pushback. There was pushback from my parents. I think a lot of members of my family, back in 2020, thought I was going a bit mad, because I was quite obsessed, and it probably it did become an obsession because I was so sure that there was something really bad going on in this world, and I
yeah,
was right. But I was so certain about it, that I was obsessive about it, and my family thought that I was going a bit bonkers. But
have they?
they, with hindsight, I think they realise now, looking back, that actually I had a point.
I bet the conversation's never been had though.
Yeah.
Has
We've had. Yeah, there's been. I've had quite a few people actually come and apologise to me for the way they treated me
that's brilliant.
because
That's fantastic.
yeah, family members and friends of mine who I play golf with. I've had a lot of people who have apologised and gone, "Do you know what? I'm really sorry. I thought you were mad, but actually, it turned out you were actually right."
Yeah, and people were manipulated into being that way as well, and
Yeah, so I
it's
have
not
sympathy. I have sympathy for those people. They believed the television.
100%.
And it's a very powerful propaganda tool. And I know that, and I understand that, but I know that not everybody understands it yet. But I'm sure,
But to
given
tell
time,
us,
they will.
once again, they tell us it's called TV programming for a
Yeah, it's
reason.
programming, and it's even the television,
Yeah,
because that's all they
yeah.
do. They tell a
Tell you
vision.
their vision, yeah, and they give you the narrative. And yeah, well, clearly COVID had quite the effect and has opened your mind right up, because once your eyes are open, you can't unsee, and then
Absolutely, absolutely not. And
you see
and I
everything.
will be, although it was a horrible time, it has, in a funny way, changed my life for the better, because I found the Lord,
Yeah.
and I am in a much better place than I was 5 years ago.
And just to close, can we touch on the Christian aspect of things? So, given that there is clearly a battle going on between good and evil, what would be your Christian message to people? What would be your call to people to come to Christ?
Well, I think I've actually I saw something, a statistic last week, where there's been a massive increase in 18 to 25-year-olds who have turned into Christianity, which gives me incredible hope, and it really lifted my spirits to know that young people are actually, taking a look at what's happening in the world, and wanting to be on the right side,
Yeah.
on the side of good and not the side of evil. So that brought a lot of joy to me, and I can only live my life in the best way I can, in trying to apprentice in the way that Jesus lived his life, and I hope that people will see that and that they will follow. That's all I can do.
Particular verse that you would like to share, or any particular Bible verse that means a lot to you? Or
There's not one in particular, to be honest. I'm still quite new into this, and I'm still working my way through the Bible.
okay,
But there's, I think there are probably, if I would give the advice that I was given actually when I first became a Christian was that was to go and read the four Gospels first.
yeah,
And take a look at that before going back to the Old Testament and going through it that way. So I would say to anybody, if they are interested, is to perhaps start with the New Testament and go through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John before you start going back to the Old Testament, because I think that really gives you a real idea of what Jesus was like, what he did.
and what has he done in your life since accepting him in?
He has made me a much more considerate person, a much kinder person, a much more patient person, and I have a meaning in my life that wasn't there before. I love going to church every Sunday, and I love reading my Bible, and it's something that's just brought peace in my heart.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the world spend their life running away from stuff that's been there for years, that we could have just stuck with, and not be in the place we are now. But Matt, it's been absolutely fantastic to speak with you today, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening on a Friday to speak with the Bapcast audience. And if everybody could like, share, and subscribe, and I'll link.
Yo, you know who it is? Griddle's hot, rumors fly, but the Baps still banging. Let's go! I'm the Batman, Belfast, born and bred, flipping fried eggs while they talk on threads. They tweet that beef, but I bring real meat, bacon stacked high. Bap game elite, they chat like they know me, they don't know jack. Talking mad smoke while I'm serving a stack. Hash brown hot with the yolk that runs. I break more fast than 100 nuns. They hate, they try cancel my stand. Still